My name is Maddie. I recently graduated with my master's in clinical nutrition in December, and I'm currently studying for my registration exam to be a dietitian in the upcoming weeks, so in the next few weeks. I've been coaching for Orange Theory for about 8 months now. Recently just moved to Asheville to pursue my career in dietetics and as a fitness professional, focusing mostly on community wellness. And I'm going to turn it right over to Carly.
Hi everyone, my name's Carly and I am a newly certified registered dietitian nutritionist. I graduated from my internship at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota in August of 2021, and I passed my RD exam in November. I've been coaching at Orange Theory since December of 2018, so just a little over 3 years. I coach at the studio in Appleton, Wisconsin, and I also spent some time coaching in Rochester, Minnesota while I was there doing my schooling at the Mayo Clinic. Super excited to be here today talking to you all about nutrition, and hopefully you take a little bit away from what Maddie and I share with you today and are able to use it to be successful during the Transformation Challenge.
So we are first going to talk about body composition and a little bit about the InBody. So it's a super fantastic tool to both track your goals and increase your success. Ultimately, through this transformation challenge, and we want to see the optimal body composition changes would be seen through increasing your muscle mass and decreasing that body fat mass. Now, maybe that specifically doesn't obtain to you, so not a problem there. But just reaching those specific goals will include both your Orange Theory classes and proper nutrition and rest. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into a couple of those things. So first I want to touch on your BMR. So you may have heard of this term before. It's called your basal metabolic rate. So basically what that means, it's your resting energy expenditure. So if you would just be laying down all day, that's the amount of energy in terms of calories that you would burn at complete rest. Now, that is based off that fat-free mass. So the way that we increase that BMR would be increasing that lean mass. So we want to make sure nutritionally that we are at least at that amount of calories per day so that we don't see any undesirable body responses. So that could look like unfavorable body composition changes, potentially hormonal responses, altered body function, and that can mean a lot of different things. So anything on top of that in terms of movement, anything on top of that number in terms of movement needs to take that number up just a notch. So anything including Orange Theory classes, activities of daily living, even if that is just emptying the dishwasher or tying your shoes, basic things like that will make that number higher. So we want to make sure that we're at least meeting those needs in terms of that caloric intake. So assessing your own diet and your own goals, taking that into account, is pretty individualized. Further than that, just making sure that we're at least hitting that number. So skeletal muscle mass is the next thing we're going to touch on. So ultimately, as we increase that skeletal muscle mass, we will increase our resting energy expenditure, so that BMR. So maximizing our skeletal muscle is super important to keep us strong, able to just do life better. So ultimately that strength training, the weight portion on the weight floor is super important. And in terms of nutrition, both increasing that skeletal muscle mass and decreasing that body fat can kind of go hand in hand here. So choosing the right foods, which we'll talk about a little bit more, eating those balanced meals and meal timing and composition can really play a role into how we are optimizing. So prioritizing protein and eating enough to maintain that high level of activity and to maintain that skeletal muscle mass. So we touched a little bit about on nutrition for both skeletal muscle mass and body fat. Just understanding that body fat is essential for life. So we need to have this, and it's important mostly to assess those trends and to lose some body fat. Increasing skeletal muscle mass is going to be really important.
So first, we're going to break down what are called macronutrients. So some of you might have heard what macronutrients are, but essentially there are 3 macronutrients, and they are the nutritive components of the food that we eat. So when we consume a meal or a snack, our body is going to break down the food, and that food is going to provide us one, maybe multiple of the 3 macronutrients. First thing, it's really important that we're getting a proper balance of the macronutrients so that we're able to meet all of our nutritional needs, not only for day-to-day life, but especially when it comes to being successful when reaching our health and fitness goals. I want to start by saying that you're going to see some ranges here, and we're going to talk through them. But number one, first and foremost, it's really important to keep in mind that there are ranges for a reason. What works for one person or another isn't necessarily going to work for you. So keep in mind that if you hear of a coworker or family member or a fellow OTF member eating a certain amount of one or more macronutrients, that does not mean that's how many you should eat. There are ranges for a reason, and these are going to vary based on a lot of different things: gender, age, stature, and individual health goals. So keep in mind that no one person is going to eat the exact same way and get the exact same results. So first, carbohydrates. We're going to dive into each of the 3 macronutrients more, but here we're just going to talk kind of high level and amounts that we should be looking for. Carbohydrates, we want this to consist of anywhere from 45 to 65% of our total daily intake. So this is going to be where a majority of your calories come from, carbohydrate foods. So, and again, that's a pretty large range, about 20% difference. And again, that's going to vary based on your activity level, what kind of job you have, age, stature, and what those health goals are. Next up is protein. So this one's really important, especially when we're talking about building muscle mass, maybe changing that fat mass to muscle mass ratio on that in-body scan. This should be anywhere from 10 to 35% of your daily intake. Now, being that you all are active individuals participating in physical activity with the main goal of hopefully building some muscle mass, we would definitely want to see you on the higher end of that protein range for your daily intake. This is a wide range taking into account people of multiple different levels of physical activity. Another way to kind of consider how much protein you should be taking in is by looking at it on a gram per kilogram of body weight basis. So anywhere from about 1 to 1.4 grams per kilogram of body weight would be a good range of protein to shoot for. So if you don't know how much you weigh in kilograms, you can always take your weight in pounds, divide it by 2.2, and that's going to let you know and kind of give you an idea of if you're getting close to that protein amount that you need. And lastly is fat. Dietary fat should provide about 10 to 35% of our total daily intake. We're going to talk a little bit later about why fat is important and why it's essential in the diet. And so again, anywhere from 10 to 35% of our total daily intake should come from fat. So again, if there's anything that I can really reiterate here is that the actual amounts are really variable based on so many things, which is why we really need to try to stay away from thinking, oh, this is what my family or friend is eating, this is what I should be eating, because it is truly individualized.
So we just touched on all 3 of the macronutrients. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into each one of them specifically. First one we're going to talk about is our carbohydrates. So this one is to provide, the function of a carbohydrate is to provide energy for the body. So this can be in the short term or the long term. So they're pretty easily digested and they travel right to the bloodstream. So once we have enough energy for our current needs, we start to store that for later. And that's kind of where we come into our high intensity interval training. And once our blood sugars start to drop, the body is really, really good at bringing those levels back up. So that's where that long-term energy use comes into play. So in looking at sources of our carbohydrates, so we have 2 different categories. First, we have our simple carbohydrates. They're super good at that quick energy. Then we have our complex carbohydrates, more of that long-term energy. So our complex carbohydrates are integrated with a couple different nutrients, especially that fiber component, and some of our other beans and legumes have some protein as well. So that's why they're that longer term energy. So we're going to touch first on our simple. So that quick energy, something that's going to spike up our energy levels right away. So stuff like fruit can be whole or dried, maybe sugar, honey, agave, all kind of fall into that same category as sugar. Milk products, so our dairy products, thinking yogurt, milk, products like that. And then our processed and refined goods. So these are the ones that we may want to keep an eye out for. Doesn't necessarily mean to eliminate them completely. Just keep an eye on our portions and how much of them that we're eating. So our baked goods, our cereals, white breads and pastas can include our white rices and things like that as well. And then same along those lines as the processed and refined goods are sugar sweetened beverages. So our fruit juices and our sodas, sweetened coffees and teas, and sports drinks. So we really just want to caution those last two, so that we're not overindulging in them. So then our complex carbohydrates, those are going to add the extra benefit of that longer lasting energy with some fiber components in there as well, and maybe some additional protein. So vegetables, both starchy, are going to add a little bit more of a complex carbohydrate, have a little bit more carbohydrate sources there, and then our non-starchy vegetables. So whole grains, like brown rice and quinoa, whole wheat breads, super great sources. Beans and legumes, they have lots of fiber, lots of protein in them as well, along with our complex carbohydrates. Stuff like black beans, chickpeas, soybeans, peas, the list can go on and on there, just to name a couple. And then we have our potatoes. So this can include both white potatoes and our sweet potatoes. So a combination of both is really important, but we really want to emphasize most of our carbohydrate sources from that complex carbohydrates.
So the next macronutrient that we're going to hit on today is protein. So protein is going to be essential for the growth, development, repair, and maintenance of body tissues like muscle, bone, skin, and cartilage. So this is particularly going to be important for building that muscle and helping that muscle recover and repair after we complete resistance training. So thinking about after you're completing that strength training portion at OTF, or if you complete a Lift 45 class. During those classes, we're really breaking down our muscle tissue. And then afterwards, in order to help repair it and ultimately get it stronger, it's important that we're providing the body with the protein through food that it needs in order to properly recover, repair, and get stronger. We're going to talk more about timing of the 3 macronutrients later on, but keep in mind protein is going to be the macronutrient that we're really focused on getting in after that workout to help rebuild and repair that muscle. So when it comes to sources of protein, you can kind of think about it as 2 different categories. Your animal sources are going to be things like, your meat, your pork, things of that nature, poultry with your chicken and fish, seafood, lots of options here, tuna, salmon, shrimp, cod, any seafood you can think of. And then we also have egg products as well. 2 other options that are going to be able to provide protein that Maddie hit on the last slide are going to be your milk products. So thinking things like yogurt, cottage cheese, milk products are going to provide you with protein. However, we do classify those in the carbohydrate category, which is why we hit on them on the last slide. The other category and another way you can get protein in is through plant-based sources. These are going to be from things like beans, peas, lentils, nuts, seeds, and soy products like your tofu and tempeh. So again, picking protein options that you prefer, things that you enjoy and like to eat and cook is going to be the way to go. But we just wanted to share lots of different options and different ways that you can help meet those protein goals, both at snacks and at meal times.
So the last macronutrient that we're going to touch on is our fat. So fat has a ton of different functions. First and foremost, it's going to be our storage form of energy. So it also is a structural building blocks for cell growth and development, and it is really good for carriers of our fat-soluble vitamins. So these would be A, D, E, and K. Also, it is super protective for our organs. It is essential there, and it really helps us with our blood pressure and cholesterol control. So there's a couple different sources of fats. We really want to prioritize out of these four, we really want to prioritize our monounsaturated and our polyunsaturated fats. So both of these are going to be a liquid at room temperature. So in terms of our monounsaturated fats, we have our olive oils, our canola oils, maybe peanut oils, and then our nuts and seeds, hazelnuts, pecans, almonds, pumpkin seeds, and sesame seeds. And then in that other category, we have avocados. So they're a really great source of our monounsaturated fats. So we're moving along to our polyunsaturated fats. So these also, we want to prioritize these in our diet. So sunflower oils, soybean oils, nuts and seeds. We have our walnuts and flax seeds. We also want to include fish into this category. So this is also where you may have heard the terms omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. So both of these, they're called an essential fatty acid. So basically what that means is our body is not able to make that on its own, so therefore we need to get that from our food sources. So both omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids are falling under the category of that polyunsaturated fat. So you can get both of these through fish, flax seeds, walnuts, canola oil, almonds, cashews, and they're really going to help with our cell membranes, provide us with energy, and lots of other added benefits as well. So prioritizing these about 2 to 3 times a week would be a really good way to add them in. So as we move along, we're talking now about some saturated fats. So not necessarily a bad thing, but we want to make sure that we are watching the portions of these ones, just because those mono and polyunsaturated fats are going to be a little bit more healthful. Saturated fats have their time in the place, but we want to prioritize the other ones. So oils such as coconut oil, palm oil, these are all going to be our solids at room temperature. Meats such as poultry, primarily found in the skin of our poultry products, pork, beef, our sausages, full-fat dairy products, ice cream, baked goods, can be in some fried foods as well. So last one we want to talk about is our trans fats. So these are going to be liquid oils that have turned into our solid fats in processing. Basically, a hydrogen is added, making them into our solid fats. So anything, if you turn over the label on your goods or your foods, your labels, hydrogenated vegetable oil would be a source of a trans fats. So that would be something to caution there. Also, in terms of shortening, stick margarines, highly processed foods, and battered and fried foods. So again, just making sure that fat is super essential for our body, definitely nothing to fear. We just want to make sure that we're eating the right sources of fats. So lots of nuts and seeds, lots of oils, various sources, so that we can really get all of these together.
So now that we kind of understand what our 3 main macronutrients are, why they're important, and what they're able to do for our bodies, we're going to shift gears and kind of talk about how do we build those balanced meals and snacks in order to make sure we're getting that proper balance of our 3 macronutrients. So building a balanced plate can help ensure that you're getting the proper balance, and it's also going to be important for helping you stay full and satisfied between meal times. So I'm sure we've all experienced that mid-afternoon energy slump, or the feeling where the cravings for something sweet or sugary kick in because maybe we're feeling a little tired or hungry in between meal times. Well, if we start looking at ways to build a more balanced meal, we're going to be able to feel full longer and more full and satisfied in between our meal times, which is going to help us have more sustained energy throughout the day. It's going to help us sleep better at night, and it's going to help us perform better, not only in our day-to-day functions, but our workouts and physical activity as well. So some of the things to think about when you're building your meals is try to aim for about a quarter of your plate being filled with a lean protein option. So again, we kind of hit on those on the protein slide. Any of those animal sources or those plant-based sources would be a great option there. Opting for a leaner protein variety is desired. However, getting at least a quarter of your plate filled with protein is the goal. Next, you can think about filling a quarter of your plate with a starch. So that's going to be things like your rice, your pasta, your grains, your bread product. Something like that that's going to give you that nice carbohydrate source, something to help keep your blood sugar in check. It's going to help replete those glycogen stores after your workout. Next, half of your plate, think about filling it with fruits and vegetables. So we say half a plate, but really as many as you want. Maddie and I, both as nutrition professionals, always are going to encourage fruits and vegetables. So load them up, find ones that you enjoy. Now, I completely understand you might be looking at this list thinking, at breakfast, I might not be able to fill half my plate with vegetables. That's totally okay. We understand this isn't always going to be perfect, but if you're able to start to take small steps to making your plate a little bit more balanced, including that lean protein, those fruits or vegetables, and those starch for maybe at least 1 or 2 meals a day, those little steps and that habit building is going to help you become more successful with reaching that more balanced mealtime, which again is going to help you ensure you're getting the proper balance of macronutrients. And then you want to include a glass of water at mealtime as well. And then you're probably thinking, well, we hit the carbohydrates and the proteins, but what about our fats? So your fat sources at mealtime are going to primarily come from cooking. So if you're cooking in an oil, or if you're adding a dressing or a sauce to your meal, that's where those added fats are going to come in and help you meet that 10 to 35% of daily intake from fat. And fat's also important to include at mealtime because it's going to help add flavors. Fat really enhances our flavor at mealtime, and it's going to make our food taste good. So definitely don't shy away from including it there. It's also important to try to include a variety of foods, and think about trying to incorporate different colors on your plates at mealtime. So including a variety of colors is going to help you make sure you're getting enough micronutrients as well. So when we talk about micronutrients, that's our vitamins, our minerals, our antioxidants, which are really important for our body for various processes and supporting our immune system, hormonal health, digestive health, all of that good things, keeping our bodies strong and healthy. So helping to meet our micronutrient goals can come from keeping a colorful balance on our plate at meal times.
Next thing that we're going to touch on is our pre and post workout. So we're going to talk a little bit about meals and snacks and both the timing and what to eat before and after a workout. So first we want to talk about before the workout. So having a meal about 3 to 4 hours prior to exercise is a really good spot to be. So looking at our balanced meal that we had just talked about, so having some protein, having some carbohydrates, having some fat all mixed in there to add some flavors and help with cooking and stuff like that. So about 3 to 4 hours prior to that exercise, we want a full balanced meal. Now, if you're an early morning exerciser, maybe you're not going to have a full meal about 3 to 4 hours, but that's where some snacks will come in. So avoiding those high fat, heavy meals right before exercise probably wouldn't make you feel so great, and it's not going to make you perform at the best, your highest. So if you're unable to get that meal in about 3 to 4 hours prior to exercise, a snack would be another really good option. So about 30 minutes to 2 hours prior to exercise, we really want to prioritize a quick carbohydrate snack. Now that could look something like an apple or a banana, some sort of whole fruit, or maybe some granola or an energy bar. Thinking a fruit-based bar or something like that, maybe yogurt and berries, something that's going to give us those quick carbohydrates like we had talked before. So next we're going to talk a little bit about food pairing. So this is kind of goes along with that snacks that we had just talked about. So food pairing is when we're looking at building a balanced snack for both satiety and optimizing our workouts, we want to make sure that we're getting at least 2 of the macronutrients in each of our snacks. So first we have our carbohydrates and either a protein or a fat. So a couple of ideas on how to food pair in terms of building that balanced snack would be maybe some dried fruit and some almonds, or an apple with peanut butter, sliced turkey with some cheese, maybe rice cakes or crackers with some hummus. So all of those would be a really good option for a snack either right before your meal or if you're just getting a little bit hungry in between meals. So now we're going to transition to our post-workout. So it's really important that we get a post-workout either substantial snack or a full balanced meal within about an hour of our workout. So that protein source is going to really help us rebuild, and assist with that muscle growth. Now our carbohydrates are really going to help us replenish all of that glycogen and stuff that we had just depleted during our workout. So whether you're having that full balanced meal or you're having a snack, it's really important to implement both protein and carbohydrates in that post-workout meal. So examples of this could look like maybe some oatmeal with some egg whites or a protein powder topped with some sort of berries or honey. Maybe it's a breakfast meal of some scrambled eggs with some toast, some peanut butter and banana, or you're looking for that full dinner. Could be a balanced meal, some grilled chicken with some asparagus and some brown rice, or a chicken and vegetable hummus wrap with maybe a banana or some sort of side. Just really prioritizing that pre and post-workout meal and really making sure you're tapping into that good timing so we're not feeling overly full or completely without any fuel.
Thank you all so much for listening today. I really hope that you guys are able to take away something from what Maddie and I shared. Again, we definitely encourage you to please reach out to us via email if you have any further questions, or if something that was talked about today is something that you'd like to learn a little bit more about. We'd love to support you guys both inside and outside of the studio through the Transformation Challenge. And again, if there's anything that I can really stick in your minds before we leave today, is that it doesn't have to be an all or nothing approach. Maybe you don't get 3 perfect meals in, but if you can at least make 1 or 2 better than the week before, that's something, right? It starts by taking small steps, small changes that are going to eventually become habits, and it's eventually going to become a lifestyle, and your body will start to crave this more balanced way of eating. So remember, team, it's not all or nothing. Little changes do add up. Stay consistent, and you're going to see those results that you're looking for. Thanks so much, and have a great rest of your day.